Well, hi, and I hope you're having a great day, and welcome back to While We're Apart. We've been posing this question this week: what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And I'm talking about what are we doing here as the Fargo Baptist Church, as a New Testament church. You know, you and I have enough reason to be part of a New Testament church. The truth is, church isn't just something that you attend, it's something you are. When you and I understand what it means to not just go to church, but to be the Fargo Baptist Church throughout the week, we'll discover our life's true purpose. We were made to be a part of a church family, to magnify our Savior, to mature into His image, and to be a minister of His mercy and a missionary of His grace. That's why we're here. Now, sometimes we can lose our focus. I think one of the greatest scientists of all time was Albert Einstein. He was a man who was so focused on his scientific theories that he often neglected even the simplest things of life, such as his personal appearance. I mean, if you've ever looked at a picture and his hair and so on. Well, one time Einstein was on a train and he was heading for a speaking engagement, and as he sat in his seat engrossed in his work, the conductor stopped by for his ticket, and looking up in shock, Einstein realized he didn't know what he had done with his ticket, and so frantically he began to search his coat pockets and then his briefcase, and really gently the conductor said, "We all know who you are, Dr. Einstein. I'm sure you bought a ticket. Don't worry about it." But as the conductor moved along, he looked back to see Einstein on his hands and knees searching under the seats for his ticket. The conductor came back. He said, "Dr. Einstein, please, don't worry about it. I know who you are." Well, Einstein was exasperated, and he looked up and he said, "I know who I am too," but he said, "Where am I going? Do you know where I'm going?" He needed his ticket to find out where he was going. You know, that's the cry of this world, and it's really the cry of the FM area. Where are we going? Well, can the folks of Fargo Baptist Church make a difference? There's a verse back in the Old Testament book of Numbers, Numbers 10:29. I love this verse. It simply says, "Come thou with us, and we will do thee good." Now in context, it's Moses talking to Jethro, but I love it as far as the New Testament church goes. Come thou with us, and we will do thee good. Do you know that 82% of the unchurched are at least somewhat likely to attend church if they were only invited? Only 2% of church members actually invite unchurched people to church. So 98% of churchgoers never extend an invitation in a given year. You know, there was a study done including more than 15,000 adults, and it revealed that about 2/3 are willing to receive information about a local church from a family member, and 56% from a friend or a neighbor. The message is clear that the unchurched are open to conversations about church. 4% of formerly churched adults are actively looking for a church to attend regularly, other than their previous church. In other words, they're church shopping. The largest group, 62%, is not actively looking, but is open to the idea of attending church regularly again. So clearly, we can encourage Christians to pray that the unchurched would sense God calling them. But God works through His people. And the survey showed that many would respond to an invitation from a friend or an acquaintance, 41%. Their children, 25%. Or an adult family member, 25%. 35% indicated they would be inspired to attend church if I knew there were kind and nice people there. Well, we have kind and nice people here. I know that for a fact. Now, much to the surprise of the Chicken Little crowd, people are still going to church or wanting to go to church. And more people would attend if given one simple thing: an invitation. An invitation. 7 out of 10 unchurched people have never been invited to church in their whole life. 70% never been invited in their whole life. 82% of people will come to church if they're invited by a trusted relative or a friend. Imagine that. If you have an in with someone, 82% would take you up on that. And according to a recent article in the Washington Times of all things, having an active spiritual life is one of the best ways to accomplish a happier and a longer life. In fact, in the Washington Times article, and I quote, it said church going has been correlated to longevity. In other words, it's reported that those who attend church regularly tend to live an average of 35% longer than those who do not. This is the Washington Times saying you want to increase your life by even more than a third? Hey, church is healthy. Church is a good thing. Other research shows that church-going adults are less stressed, more optimistic, and they believe they're making a positive difference in the world. So, I wholeheartedly encourage our Fargo Baptist Church members to reach out, to share the life-changing principles of the Bible with people. I mean, the stats prove it. By the way, a recent study revealed that 63% of Americans are willing to receive information about a local church from a family member. And a majority, 66% of Americans are unwilling to receive information through an email. So here's the thought. We can send emails. They'll probably appeal to about a third of the population, but most people are waiting for something personal. So an email is really not as effective as a personal one-on-one contact. You know, the top two life situations that prompt adults to stop attending church include being too busy and the burden of a family. You know, if folks were thinking, the best thing they could do for their families would be to engage their children in church along with themselves. Now, the most common motivation of those who would consider a spiritual search, if I could call it that, to bring them closer to God, not surprisingly, nearly half of all people are looking for something like that. And this desire for an improved relationship with God is expressed primarily by those who still consider themselves Christians. Younger adults are even more influenced by the power of the invitation. Approximately 60% of those between 18 and 35 would consider returning to church if somebody they knew would just ask them. So, let's wrap this up. Do you know anybody who used to go to church? Well, maybe you work with them. Maybe you live by them. Maybe you're related to them. It's a pretty common phenomena in the United States for folks to have stopped going to church, but research indicates that less than 1 in 5 people attend church on a regular basis, but they are looking for something. People are still hungry for the living bread, and they're thirsty for the living water. So what are we doing here? Well, as the Fargo Baptist Church, we ought to be here to reach out to those folks and to try and make a difference in their lives. And so as you go about your day today, may I challenge you, encourage you to remember what we're doing here and reach out and let your life make a difference in this present world.
When we asunder part, it gives us inward pain, but we shall still be joyful